This meeting is being recorded.
Yesterday given initialization parameters. Initialization parameters. Initialization parameters are used to initialize the solid. Initialization parameters are used to initialize the solid. What we are going to initialize is connection. Connection purpose 4 parameters we written. In a web.xml we configured. How to retrieve we'll see now. What are the points you written? First one, initialization parameters are used to initialize solid. Next point what I given? To configure initialization parameters we use init param, param name, param value tags in web.xml. After that, I have written initialization parameters are specific to solid. That point is written? No? This point is there or not? Check it. Initialization parameters are specific to solid. Is there? No? Write this point also. Initialization parameters are specific to solid. Write this point. Initialization parameters are specific to solid. Initialization parameters are specific to solid. Now here Control Shift W, I closed all. Yesterday our program is login 2. Login 2. In login 2, I opened XML file I configured. Here not configured. I think I didn't save. I didn't save. 1 minute. See, after solid class, you have to configure. Now, here you have to configure init param. In this param name, okay, param value. Like this, how many parameters required? How many? How many required also you are not giving answer. 4 parameters. One is driver. Okay. Driver is oracle.jdbc.driver.oracle driver. Okay. Second one, URL. JDBC colon oracle colon 10 colon at localhost colon 1521 colon XC. Username, system, password, manager. These four. You observe this where we ought write also important. Inside the Sowlet tag, after Sowlet class, you ought write. After Sowlet class, before Sowlet close, you ought write. These four parameters are specific to login Sowlet only. Okay. Now, after this, this is you written already. Whatever I configured, initialization parameters are specific to Sowlet. In that example, write it. In the above example, initialization parameters, driver, URL, username, password are specific to login Sowlet only. Yesterday you written web.xml, no? Web.xml written, no? Now after that, write this all. Initialization parameters are specific to Sowlet. In the above example, initialization parameters, driver, URL, username, password are specific to login Sowlet only. To retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml to login Sowlet, we use getInit parameter method of Sowlet config interface. To retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml to login Sowlet, we use getInit parameter method of Sowlet config interface. To retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml to login Sowlet, we use getInit parameter method of Sowlet config interface. Over. You studied get parameter. Get parameter different, getInit parameter different. Get parameter is Sowlet request. GetInit parameter Sowlet config. Okay. This is only I started. Scroll bar is not there. See. Now. Read over. So whatever we written initialization parameters yesterday in web.xml, those are specific to Sowlet. So login Sowlet only. How to retrieve? GetInit parameter method we have to use in login Sowlet config interface. See here. login solid. In this login solid, in the init method, we return here driver. I'll remove this. Okay. Here also I'll remove. See, username, password, everything I'll remove. Now we can retrieve string s1 equal to config dot get init parameter. Parameter name is driver. Okay. Second parameter s2 config dot get init parameter. Second parameter name is URL. That one must match in the XML file yesterday given no driver URL. Those all must match. String s3 equal to config dot get init parameter username. Suppose there you return user, here you return username, error comes. String s4 config dot get init parameter password. Okay. Now class dot for name. What we have write? What we have write? S1. Get connection S2, S3, S4. Over. This is now I'll run the program. See, right click, run as, run on server, save. This is also save. Select the server. Next, finish. Here, homepage.html. Login. Because I return parameters for login solid. So triple A username password. This already exists. See, welcome triple A. Working no? But now if you want to change the database, which program you have to change? Web.xml or login solid? XML you have to change. Solid program no need to change. That is a benefit. That is a benefit now. So now solid program, one character also no need to change. XML program you have to change. Okay. Now what you do is no need to write complete program, only init method code enough. Init method code is enough. Example, login solid.java. Login solid.java. Write this code. Complete code no need to write. Only this part write it enough. This only init method code. Only init method code. Is it over? So whatever I configured in web.xml, names, driver, URL, username, password must match here. Okay. Those all retrieved. After that, here placed. It is driver, it is URL, username, password. With that, connection established. If you want to change the database, now no need to change Servlet program. You have to change XML only. Servlet program compilation done again, but XML anytime you can modify, no effect. XML because you are not compiling XML. That's what this is best option. Is it over? Now, suppose this is only for login Servlet, but in registration Servlet also connection required. Registration Servlet also connection required. If you want to do, then what you have to do, registration Servlet also, these 4 parameters here, whatever I configured, these four parameters are login Servlet only. Then if you want registration also, again you have to configure here. You have to configure after Servlet class. But suppose in your web application, 10 Servlets are there. Then how many times you have to configure? How many times? 10 times you have to configure. Because whatever I given, that is only for that Servlet. In your web application, 10 Servlets are there. In 10 Servlets connection required. Then 10 times you have to configure. That is the reason we have one more way, context parameters. Whatever is studied, initialization parameters. Next, context parameters. Context parameters are also used to initialize Servlet. Context parameters are also used to initialize Servlet. Context parameters are common to all Servlets. In a web application. That means .war file. Context parameters are common to all Servlets in a web application. Common to all Servlets. To configure context parameters, we use context param, comma, param name and param value tags in web.xml. To configure context parameters, we use context param, param name, and param value tags in web.xml. To configure context parameters, we use context param, param name, and param value tags in web.xml. So just one tag changed. Previously init param, now context param. One tag changed. Oh, is it over? So to configure context parameters, we use context param, param name, param value tags in web.xml. How to use these tags, we see. Now what I'll do, see here, I'll remove these all now. Now whatever I written here, init param, these all are given now, I'll remove. I'll cut. Now after this, here, before Saulet tag, we can configure. I written. Now I copied. But if you write like this, here error, because it is not the right place for init param, but context param right place. Context, it is valid. Context, see error gone. Now again, here init context. So these all context parameters now. See, now error is here only. So these whatever I written now, those all common to all solids. All solids now. Now like this we can initialize. So what you do is you write like this. I'll copy. Here I'll paste. Unnecessary things I'll remove. Now write it. Example. After web app you have to write, or before solid you have to write. So after web app you can write, otherwise before solid you can write. Now these are applicable for all solids in web.x, all solids in a web application. Now, if 10 solids are there, for 10 solids, one time only we can configure. For 10 solids also, one time only we can configure. Online students, if I open chat box, they cannot write that program. Offline students, they cannot write. Your chat box only visible. See, already videos are playing, but chat box also. You write login only, write it, because login package only be written. Write this one. Continuation, write it, because this is all common to all solids. Now database, these all real time only, no? If many all solids required, use context parameter. One solid required, use initialization parameters. Now these are applicable for both login solid and registration solid in that war file. So these are not specific to registration solid. These are not specific to login solid. Common to both. solid name, solid mapping. You studied already. 2 times will be there, no? Mapping. This name must match. Here, solid class also registration solid name also registration solid, because directly we selected in the Della boxes. That is the reason that name only coming. Here, different name also you can write here also, but year and year must match. Whatever you write here, that one must match here. This should be class name. This is in package name. Oh, is it over? First program, welcome program time I explained about this. This name used by deployer. This name used by Java programmer. This name used by user. 3 roles. Developer, deployer, user. This slash login slash reg used by users. This login solid used by deployer. This login solid used by developer, Java programmer. Now, whatever we configured context parameters common to all solids in a web application. Now, in this program, 2 solids are there. These are applicable for both the solids. If 10 solids are there, applicable for 10 solids. Okay. That's what we are not writing inside a solid. Outside a solid tag we are writing, which are common to all. Okay. Is it over? No done. The above context parameters are common to all solids in a web application. The above context parameters are common to all solids in a web application. To retrieve context parameters from web.xml to a login solid and registration solid, we use getInit parameter, method name same, method of solid context interface. To retrieve context parameters from web.xml to login solid and registration solid, we use getInit parameter method of solid context interface. So solid config previously, now solid context. Previously solid config, now solid context. But method name is same, getInit parameter, because this is also for initialization. That is also for initialization. Only difference that is specific, this is common. Is it over? Now how to retrieve, you see. Is it over? Now login solid. Previously I written like this. Now with config I called. Now context required. So first of all, context we have to retrieve. How to retrieve solid context? I'll explain. Get solid context. You'll get a context. Here just config place solid context. Now control shift O context. Actually, first of all, you should get context. For that, this method available in generic solid class. The diagram I'll explain. With that, you'll get a clarity. Now, which is superclass we written for both the programs? Generic solid. Okay, generic solid derived in login solid as well as registration solid. Okay, now generic solid inverted here. Generic solid inverted here. Method is available here. Get solid context. Now here get solid context method is available in generic solid class. Now with login solid object, can I call this method? With registration solid object, can I call this method? Yes, that is I called implicitly this keyword. This keyword refers current object, login solid object. With that, get solid context. You'll get a context. Write this diagram. Is it over? Now here generic solid, here login solid, here registration solid. Login solid object dot this method we can call registration solid object dot this method we can call. That is I called here. Say here implicitly what will be there here? This. This dot get solid context. This no need to write by us. Implicitly present. This refers login solid object. Login solid object dot get solid context. We got a context. In the context also same method is there. Get init parameter. That is I called. It is login solid. Next registration solid. In the registration solid. Here also same. Now what you can do here? First you can remove these all. Driver I'll remove. Username, URL, username, password, these all we can remove. Here, first solid context. SC equal to get solid context. We'll get a context. After getting context, string S1, context dot get init parameter. Parameter is driver. String S2 equal to context reference dot get init parameter URL. String S3 equal to solid context reference dot get init parameter username. String S4 equal to solid context dot get init parameter name password. Now here S1, S2, S3, S4. Now how many times I configured? One time. How many times I'm using? 2 times. Suppose in a one web application 10 solids are there. One time configure, 10 times use. See. Now if I run this program, now both I'll save. Now registration solid also I'm using. Now first SQL prompt I'll open. How many records are there? I'll check it once again. See. Select a star from uinfo, this table. Already 3 records are there. Okay. Now homepage.html. Registration. Triple D. When I click submit button. 1 minute, again error came. Solid config. Get init parameter. One minute. There are 2 init methods. This is also I'll explain what's the difference. I'll explain. Homepage.html. You have registered successfully. Okay. I'll explain what's the difference. I'll explain. There are 2 init methods will be there. In this case, this solid config will not work. We should not write. I'll explain why. In this case, it is required. I'll explain why. Now again I'll run because I modified again login solid also. What's the difference? I'll explain. See, again I'll execute homepage.html. Here registration, new user, triple E, submit. See, you have registered successfully. Login, triple E. See, welcome. Now, previously that init method we used. Here another init method I used. There are two init methods. What's the difference? I have to explain. Okay. First of all, notes write it. This is only init method write it. No need to write complete. Example, login solid.java and registration solid.java. Same code, no change. Login solid.java and registration solid.java. Same code, no change. Ready, son? Actually, this is only this init method only recommended always. Why? I'll explain. After completion of this init parameter, context parameters, I'll explain. For understanding that one, core Java runtime polymorphism concept required. Dynamic polymorphism. So here first we'll get a context. After getting context, with that we are calling. Is it over? Next, write it. Initialization parameters versus context parameters. Initialization parameters versus context parameters. One side, initialization parameters. One more side, context parameters. Initialization parameters are specific to solid. Context parameters are common to all solids in a web application. Initialization parameters are specific to solid. Context parameters are common to all solids in a web application. This is first difference. To configure initialization parameters, we use init param, param name, and param value tags in web.xml. To configure context parameters, these all already learned, but just a comparison I'm writing. We use context param, param name, and param value tags in web.xml. So initialization parameters are specific to solid. Context parameters are common to all solids in a web application. To configure initialization parameters, we use init param, param name, and param value tags in web.xml. To configure context parameters, we use context param, param name, and param value tags in web.xml. But for retrieving method, same method name, but interface different. To retrieve initialization parameters, from web.xml to solid, we use get init parameter method of solid config interface. To retrieve context parameters from web.xml to solid, we use method name same, get init parameter of solid context interface. So for one particular solid only required, use initialization parameter. For all solids required, use context parameters. So here method name same. Get init parameter, get init parameter. But interface different. It is config, it is context. You already studied when solid config created. The object creation order by web container. One class I explained. No? Object creation order by web container. When solid config created. When it is created. Solid config. Object creation order by web container. I given notes. No. Wrong answer. Solve. Solid config is created whenever init method is called. Init method is called whenever first request comes. Solid context created whenever web application deployed. Context different, config different. I asked config. Solid request and response created for every request. That notes are given already. Okay, before this login and registration solids program are given. Now suppose in a one web application 10 solids are there. In a one web application 10 solids are there. How many config created? How many context created? 10 configs created, 1 context created. Okay, that difference also write it, because in interview that is also they may ask. Solid config versus solid context. Solid config versus solid context. Both are interfaces. It is used to retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml. It is used to retrieve context parameters from web.xml. It is created by web container whenever init method is called. It is created by web container whenever web application is deployed. Deployed on server. The web container creates solid config, one per solid. One per solid. The web container creates solid context, one per application. If 10 solids are there, 10 configs created. See, solid request for request parameters, solid config for initialization parameters, solid context for context parameters, solid response, sending response, like us creating streams, server to browser. What's the difference between two init methods? I didn't explain. That is Monday class we'll see. Is it over? We'll see continuation on Monday. Online students, just wait 2 minutes. I'll clarify your doubts. Yesterday it was disconnected. Yesterday it was disconnected. Notes I shared just now. Before class only I shared. Before class only I shared. 1 minute wait. today notes I didn't share, but up to yesterday notes I shared. Advanced Java, it's not possible. Not like a core Java. Yeah, starting 10 minutes, initialization parameters only explained. Yeah, we can use annotations also. Yes. Struts.xml, nothing but struts specification, struts library. That struts nothing but web application framework. Today, first program that is only initialization parameter only. Yeah, I for yeah. This is you copy OJDBC 6 underscore G. You copy into Tomcat lib folder. In Tomcat lib folder, you copy. Notes today I send. Before this class only I send. Annotations also you can write, but annotations what will happen again solid program only. Still you getting same error means you restart Eclipse. Struts is a Struts also one web application framework. With that also we can develop web applications. Solid context is interface. It is memory. Yeah, system admin number I'll give mail. Sunday I'll open mail. Every Sunday I'll give a reply. Yeah, do post, do get till I didn't explain. I didn't explain. I'll explain. Do get, do post is there in notes? Okay, okay. I'll explain. Which diagram? Shubani, Sheikh Shubani. That context diagram. Context diagram is super class. Generic solid is super class. This is login solid. Login solid super class is generic solid. With login solid object, we can call generic solid method. That is only diagram. My mail ID notes header and footer, every page is there. Every page. URL pattern must match. Yes. Vishnu Sagar. Any other doubts? Web container creates config for every solid, context for application. Real-time action is used for solid URL pattern and JSP file. Advanced Java total real-time only. This is real-time only. Any other doubts? Any other doubts? We'll see continuation tomorrow, Monday. Each database separate. If you want to make it not possible, then properties class you can use collections framework. Okay. Yeah, parameter values you have to change whenever you want to change the database. We'll see continuation on Monday. It takes time. Servlet listeners are there, servlet filters are there, JSP is there, MVC is there, so many concepts are there. Total batch 70 to 80 days it will take from the beginning. I said no, already duration 60 to 70 days. Still listeners are there, many concepts are there. Annotation, if you write servlet only, you have to modify. That is the reason XML better. Driver name in each database, if you want to write, you have to change compulsory. Your each database separate will be there, you have to change. But XML one file only can write. Yes. We'll see continuation on Monday. Annotation parameters are there. Okay, we'll see continuation on Monday.